My guest today is Anna, and she's in El Salvador, and she has a great story of progress with her rheumatoid arthritis. She got diagnosed 12 months ago, and it started out quite aggressively, and we're going to hear about that in a moment. She's been able to reduce her methotrexate. She follows the Paddison program, and she's going to share about the most important aspects of the Paddison program that she's found to get the results that she has so far on her journey, which is still in development, but it's very encouraging. So thanks, Anna, for coming on today.
You're welcome, Clint. Thank you.
So let's get straight into it. Talk about how this began for you, where you started to get symptoms.
Okay, I started the symptoms on my knees, but the knees was not the rheumatoid arthritis. It was osteoarthritis, and then couple of months later, I started getting pain on my wrist, and then it got swollen. So I went to the doctor again, and since he saw a pattern, he had me take the test, and then the results. When they came, I got the shocking news, which to me was very, very, very hard at the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
But I said, I'm going to fight this no matter what. And yeah.
And did they put you onto the methotrexate immediately?
No, I did not, because, I wanted to fight it in a natural way. So I said no. And, I started searching. And that's when I stumbled upon, the Paddison program. And so then I started. So, at the beginning, it was more difficult because I was in Finland at that moment, and my doctor is in El Salvador. And so, I started the program with no medicine at all, not even pain medicine. And, I couldn't move my wrist. And I guess with the cold weather and everything, it was even worse. And so, I waited a couple of 3 months until I finally started with the methotrexate. So, to help myself out at the beginning.
When we're highly inflamed, which can be the case shortly after diagnosis, as the disease is still trying to find its place and it tends to kind of snowball. It did in my case. It got really bad really quick. When we try natural interventions, even if they're well researched and work for everyone else, sometimes it can be still too hard to pull back that cascade of inflammation. And one of our non-negotiables is to have low pain levels all the time, low inflammation. And so in those scenarios, like you found, even when you were doing the right things right from the start, essentially, you still needed the medication to provide that inflammation reduction so that then things calm down, and you also buy yourself a lot more time as you're not panicking, you're not worried, and you're not in pain, to be able to work on healing on the inside and build a pattern and a habit around this big change of lifestyle, which it is.
It is, definitely. And, everything, I guess when you're in a lot of pain and inflammation and you can't move, I mean, it's, and sometimes you don't have people to help you out at that moment, or maybe even if it's within, your family and friends, it's hard for them to understand the level of pain, because nobody can understand, and nobody, only the people that are in the same situation. So I found the Paddison program to be fabulous in that way, because, we're all on the same boat. And so we understand and we share our experiences. And, even when you have doubts about medication, I remember asking you, and I remember you told me, to get on the medication so I could get the inflammation down, because I had some nodules on my left wrist. I don't have any now. So they're completely gone. And also the inflammation I had on my right wrist, and I didn't have any movement, and I completely can move it now. And, and I have been very strict with the program.
Mm. And how much of the reduction of the inflammation do you feel came from the changes through the program? And how much were you able to get some relief from the drug?
Well, I would think that the food has more to do than the medication itself. I started with the Trexate at the beginning of February. And in August, I went and then the program I started last November. So it's going to be a year and so right now it's 11 months.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think I have come a long way because, before I was diagnosed, I went to the gym 3 hours. And then I had to cut it down completely, because I couldn't lift anything. And now I'm not saying that I can lift a lot, but I can do at least 5-10 pounds or 8 pounds, depending on the level of pain that I'm in that moment. But I do all the rest of the stuff. I like to work out. Then I walk. I also walk a lot. And then the stationary bike and I have not been doing yoga. I haven't found the Bikram yoga here in El Salvador. They do have yoga, but since I was in pain, I couldn't do all the poses. So I decided to stick to walking and the gym, and it has worked for me.
Absolutely, I love the gym. It's my preferred place to go to stay as well as I can be. I go to Bikram at the moment because I really damaged my left knee again, which has a lot of pre-existing damage from all of the inflammation that was in it many years ago. So I'm using a lot of yoga at the moment, but I definitely prefer to go to the gym, and there's so much that you can do at the gym, whether it be a stationary bike or an elliptical or a rowing machine for the cardiovascular side of things. And then you can also go out and go and lift some weights as you do and build up some muscle, not just, the classic kind of bicep, tricep, chest sort of stuff. But what we really want to work on are the connective tissue where those big muscles connect to the bones at the joint because they are the ones that get inflamed. The tendinitis that can happen at the joint is where so much of inflammation and pain comes from in these major joints, and we often think that that's rheumatoid arthritis or synovitis, but it's not. It is tendinitis, and it's just because of damage to maybe micro damage to the joint or significant damage to the joint. The damage gets twisted when we sleep or when we move it in a way that it doesn't like. The tendons get a little inflamed, and then we don't use the joint because it feels a bit uncomfortable. But an inflamed or a tendinitis joint responds well to suitable exercise. It's blood flow. It's causing attention to those that soft tissue. So, I've especially my elbows. They're always wanting to develop low-grade tendinitis, and so the gym is just the best place for me with these elbows. And just by lifting sensible weights within my comfort zone, I can keep it at bay. And I'm all for it. And if people aren't able to go to the gym, they can get elastic bands and these things called tubes that they can buy on elastic tubes with handles on the end on Amazon, and they're a great way to exercise at home. So we should always be moving our body, just as you've found it so helpful for yourself. Now,
the elastic bands. The elastic bands work wonderful. I also use them.
Colorful
especially
ones.
when you travel, because that's the equivalent to some weights, and so I've found it so practical.
Absolutely, and they're so inexpensive. So for I think $7 or something, you can buy a group of 5 different resistant level elastic bands on Amazon, and you can put a knot in them and attach them. Close the door so that the knot's on the other side. And you've got a workout at home. And Melissa, my wife, has been telling me, I need to do some videos on that. So we're going to be doing some videos on that soon.
Great.
So different ways to work different muscles and keep this tendinitis low, which I'm so certain plays a much greater role in the major joint inflammation than what we all appreciate, because inflammation is, it's not all synovitis. In fact, so often it's a lot of tendinitis and only a little synovitis, which is much more treatable by ourselves at home or at the gym. So that's great. Love hearing that. Now, you've got this kind of, you're still in the stage where you're making improvements, and you 1 year in, you've got, you said to me before we connected to do this that, you're still working, a long way to go. You've been able to reduce your dose of methotrexate. How did that consultation go with the rheumatologist? How was the discussion?
Well, he was very surprised. And, sadly, I saw him in August and I hadn't visited him for 3 months because, I was in Finland. So when I came, I went and with the exams, and it turned, and they came out negative. All my tests came clean. And so he was in shock because he was because sadly he passed away like 3 weeks ago. So now I have to find a new rheumatologist, which is going to be kind of a I don't know if hard. I already have a name of one, but it's starting like over again. So he was in a shock. He was an old rheumatologist. Who happened to be my father's friend. So that's why I looked for him. And he had seen me before because I also have fibromyalgia. I've had it for 25 years, more or less.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so I deal with a lot of so I don't know I don't know life without pain.
Sure.
And yeah, but life has to go on. And so he was in a shock because he was like a very conventional, let's say, put it that way. And so he said the food has nothing to do with it. And when I came to see him in August, he said, well, I don't know what you're doing, but it's working. Because he was in a shock. He says, I just can't believe your test results. And so and that's that I don't have that I've had a lot of stress for the past months, and that doesn't help. But I keep going with the food and exercising, and yeah, and it's so hard with the food, but I guess you get used to it.
Yeah, just to add a specific to the doctor's visit, your anti-CCP came out back to normal. So you've taken your those antibodies, which were showing up when you were first diagnosed, back to normal. So that's a phenomenal result. No wonder he was surprised. We see this from time to time. It's not terribly common. Your C-reactive protein, you said, came back normal. Everything was normal. No anemia. And therefore, obviously, like he said, what you're doing is working really well. But it's particularly fantastic that the antibodies came back and normalized, which is sensational. So he lowered your methotrexate a little bit. What I'm wondering is, how did the fibromyalgia respond to the dietary changes, and how do you balance that with your exercise too? Because fibromyalgia clients who have communicated with me in the past say they find it difficult with exercise because the muscles hurt. So can you speak on that?
Well, I always before the rheumatoid arthritis, I have always led my life perfectly normal, even with the pain. I just learned to live with it. And sometimes when people tell me, I have a migraine, so I'm not going to go cancel plans, for example, I just can understand, because we know what pain is. And so I guess the fibromyalgia has also the food change has also helped. And I've always been I've never been fat. I've always been thin, but I have been pretty much a junkie with the food, uh, so changing, not being able to have my Doritos or something like that was kind of at the beginning, and I used to love hamburgers and the French fries and stuff like that, which I think most people in the program. And I think the hard part is not the gym, because I did the 3 hours at the gym with the fibromyalgia.
Mm-hmm.
So, and And so I think for me the most difficult part has been, when you meet with other people and you go out to eat. I think that's the challenge for all of us, that are have changed our dietary habits.
Yeah, no doubt about it. The eating out at restaurants, eating out at cafes is the greatest challenge, and the social connectedness and the association with groups and eating, it's so strong. And so, when we have that, particularly if we're quite social people, and we like to do that frequently as our way of spending time with friends, then that is definitely a challenge. And for the first few months, I think it's best to avoid eating out at all, just because it's an absolute minefield, and you almost can't put a step down onto the grass without landing on a mine.
Yeah,
So many oils and particularly the oils that are used in cafes and restaurants, and even vegan ones, plant-based cafes. I mean,
yeah.
it's just laden with oil.
Yeah. Yeah. I just think it's not only that part. Let's say I can go to a cafe and I always, I have I bake some biscuits, very small ones. So, they're oat. They're made from oats.
Hmm.
So, and, I always carry a little bag with them when I go to a cafe. So I just sneak them out, and then the other people don't feel that bad, that I'm only there. But I think it's the part of explaining people why you can't have this and this and that, and then people say, oh, but this is fine, just thinking because you're a vegan, then
Mm.
everything is fine. And so the oil part, that it's people don't get it, even if you eat at home and you're surrounded by people, they just don't understand that it's the oil, how much it causes the pain.
Oh, it blows people's minds. It's
Yeah.
almost like it's saying that that we're not on a planet that's rotating around the sun. It's like it's not humanly possible for you not to be able to eat oil or want to eat oil or think that oil's good for you. Such is the power of that misconception. And so, yeah, we have to battle that. That's one of the challenges, and it makes you less inclined with time to want to spend time with people who don't understand, because it
Yes.
gets so old explaining this over and over again to people, and you also kind of find it a little bit annoying to watch people sit and eat disgusting foods that are terrible for their health, and yet somehow they don't seem to get any serious symptoms from having it other than maybe some indigestion that night. And it's kind of a little bit, it's hard to relate to when people can eat whatever they want and seem not to have a problem, at least tonight or tomorrow.
Yeah.
And we're working as hard as we can just to have, just to have a normal life.
Yeah.
You travel a lot to Finland. Tell us about that. How you managed to travel on a restrictive diet. I love your little tip about the little oat cookies. That's great. Any other insights you can share about traveling?
Yeah. Well, when I travel, since it's such a long flight. I mean, it's exhausting because I have to change. Well, you too, when you fly from Australia, you're far away. So it's for me to Finland. I have to change 3 planes.
Mm.
And I never managed to get a direct flight like from Miami to Finland. So just stopping in the U.S. all the time, and sometimes I only get short connections. But the thing is that I have learned to travel. I pack my salad, and so far I have had no issues. In customs or anything. And then I even when since I know I'm going to have a breakfast at least. I even travel. I have my oats,
Hmm.
and then I have my milk. I also, in those traveling bottles that you for the shampoo and the conditioner.
Yeah.
So I have managed to put my oat milk in there, and so I pack 2 bottles of those, and I know that, and then I ask for a cup like the water cup that you get in the airlines. So then I put my oats there, and I put my oat milk there, and I even have like my cinnamon and stuff like that. So I have managed, to so now instead of my normal handbag, I travel with a backpack
Yeah.
packed with food. And so I have managed to make these biscuits very small, and they're very easy to make. And and they're even very crunchy. And so I put them in the little Ziploc bags, and then I always have them with me in my handbag, because you never know. And I also bake my own muffins from oats, but with no additives or anything,
Mm.
of course. But those are harder at restaurants, because you can really see the muffin, and the biscuits is easier to hide away. I think some places don't have any issues as long as somebody else is ordering something, and you're ordering a tea, or sometimes I even ask just for lemon water, not even lemonade. Or here we have these traveling honey packets,
Yep.
just like the tea packets or the coffee packets. So I always try to have also my honey with me, just in case. So I'm always prepared now, because you never know.
Yeah, I love it. It's like an adult version of packing the kids'
For the kids.
school lunch, and they head off and they have their morning tea or their mid morning snack, and then they have their lunch and afternoon snack, all different little containers. That's what our kids look like when they head out with Angelina with her backpack. So it reminds me of that. And I think we worry too much about whether or not the restaurant's going to care or whatever. I mean, really, who are we worried about? We're worried about probably some pimply teenager who's earning a small amount of money serving your table just for the shift that they're on.
Yeah.
And do they really care that you're snacking on a small biscuit whilst you're sitting there and you've bought a lemon tea and your friends are sitting there and paying to eat their meals and enjoying time at their cafe, and you might come back frequently and speak good things about the place. So we went out to dinner the other night. It was my birthday. I turned 44 2 days ago, and we went out for
Happy birthday.
thank you. We went out and we went to our Indian restaurant that we have green lit and pre-checked. And we went there, and Melissa has lots of little things for the kids. She's got some cut up tofu pieces, and she slots them in front of them beforehand. And what else did she have the other night? Or maybe, some little mandarin pieces, and just keeps their energy levels up and keeps their hunger controlled before the food comes out, and that helps their behavior. And no one cares. Well, if anyone cares, they don't say anything, because we're a family of five. We're going to have a fairly big bill at the end of the,
Yeah.
So, so well done. And I think everyone should take note that, if it means that you get out of the house more and it means that you have more social opportunities, then do it. Just pack a little thing on the side and go and do it. Don't let the concern of whether or not there's rules at the restaurant or not stop us from having the completely necessary social connection with our friends. So I like that a lot.
Yeah, and then you just go and then if it's a salad, you just order the salad and you just say nothing on it.
That's it.
And
Yeah.
and that's it.
And they
You
ask
know,
you
and
ask you about 6 times. So you want absolutely nothing on it at all. You sure you don't want some dressing? No, nothing. Or what about some cheese? No, nothing, over and over again.
Yeah, that's right. I just order, lemon juice on the side, because that's how and then they're okay. I really haven't had any issues, at the restaurants that people say you're weird or something like that.
Good.
I have more, my friends, especially when I'm here, I manage to eat sushi, the veggie sushi. So yeah, so they know that if we're going out, it's a sushi.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
either salad or sushi. So that's it. So people stick with you, and then when they see, and when they saw me when I couldn't move my wrist at all, and now that they see the difference, and The problem that I had was gaining some weight, but I think, in this, I have been in El Salvador 2 months, and I think I have gained like 5 or 10 pounds, because I was weighing 89, 90 pounds, and I wouldn't go up from that, even if I ate enormous amounts of food,
Right.
But I mean, enormous, my oatmeal in the morning is huge. And, with fruit and everything on the side. And still, I didn't manage. And I guess, I started eating, I don't know if you have ever tried plantains,
Uh,
the cookie bananas.
yeah. I have tried them. I think I tried them in, I want to say Fiji or somewhere. Yeah, I think I have. Yep.
Yeah, Cuban dishes. Since you're in Florida, Cuban
Mm.
dishes use them a lot. In Latin America, they're like part of the
Mm-hmm.
your not every day, but yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so those have helped me gain some, those extra pounds, because nothing fit. I was nothing completely fit. And so now, I'm happy, that I even gained like 5 extra pounds.
Yeah, the gym also helps with that. I think it's very easy for
Yeah.
us to just obsess about how we're eating a lot, we're not gaining weight. Well, here's the truth is that the body will not spontaneously add any more requirement than it needs to. The body's extremely efficient. If the body thinks you're not lifting any weights, it doesn't need that muscle, it won't just spontaneously build muscle. It's not like we have, a predetermined muscle amount that the body will always stick to at all times. It just disregards it if it doesn't feel that it's being used. Like if you've got a broken leg and the leg gets wrapped up below the knee on the shin, let's say you break your ankle, I should say. If you that thing's out of action for 6 weeks, your calf muscle will look like completely disintegrated by the time if you're getting around on crutches and not using it at all. And so to build that calf muscle up, if that's happened on a grand scale across our whole body because we've muscle atrophied, which happens with people with inflammatory arthritis. It's just muscle atrophy goes hand in hand with having the condition. So we actively need to watch out for that and to work against that. And so if we've got a grand scale of that, then we've got to work those muscles. We have to demand them to grow. And so your gym work obviously goes a long way to demanding that muscle growth and spontaneous muscle growth. If only that were the case, wouldn't it be easy? You wouldn't have to go and do anything other than just feed yourself and you'd look like Arnold Schwarzenegger in his prime. Right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. And that's another thing about the muscles. People worry that you're not that we're not getting enough protein.
Right.
Yeah, so I think that you can get the protein from other places. Not only from animals.
Oh, yeah. Protein's the easiest thing of all, actually, to get. It's virtually unheard of not to get enough protein if you're eating enough food that your body needs each day to sustain itself. I mean, if you only ate white rice and orange juice all day and you ate enough to sustain yourself, then you've actually met your protein requirements. I mean, it's so hard to avoid getting enough protein. It's the easiest macronutrient of all. So let's think. Can you tell me what aspects of the program, whether it be the exercise, one of the dietary components, or something else that goes in parallel, maybe it's stress reduction or something, that you feel that's really crucial that we need to discuss?
I think stress plays a big role as well, but um, I think the combination between the food and the exercise, and that you keep a positive mind. I think that helps a lot. That you meditate or some sort of activity that gives you peace. To ground yourself at least once a day. I think that's the combination. And I hope to get off of the Trexate. I don't know when. Oh, because that's the other part. That I have lost a lot of my hair,
Yeah.
and due to that. So that's for a woman, it's kind of
Yeah, it's
a big
worry.
a big issue.
Mm-hmm.
And but I think you can help yourself with that, So I think, the disease in itself is so tough, and then you get all these issues, all these side effects of everything. I guess it's just like cancer, it's you already have a disease, and on top of that, you have to take medications that make you emotionally feel worse. But I was saying, I think that you have to be positive and just keep a positive mind. And I just think that I'm going to beat the thing. Somehow I'm going to beat it because the doctor said that even if the tests are negative, that doesn't mean that we don't have the disease. It's just like a sleep, and sort of. And but I mean, I just want to be completely pain free, and get my hair back, which I have my hair, but I have lost a lot of it, and and then I'm used to the food now. I think it's in automatic now.
Yeah, the hair loss comes because you drew the parallel to cancer, and I'd never really made the distinct connection that it's treated exactly like cancer because we've got the disease, and then methotrexate is a cancer drug, right? It's chemotherapy,
Yeah.
and so although it's very low dose, I see frequently females getting hair loss. I've never seen it with a man. As strange as that may seem, I've never had a man tell me they've lost hair from methotrexate, and yet it comes up with females a lot. So the good news is that it does tend to come back, and it tends to be a sort of a cycle where the hair does go down and become and your hair thins out, but then it does tend to start to regrow again, as if the body works out how to sidestep the medication or something and still develop new hair growth. So take that on board as something to look for and to be optimistic and to look forward to, because I do see that happening. Even without, so what I mean is even on the drug. So just hang in there and just see how that goes. With some luck, that'll be the pattern that it takes for you, as I've seen with other people. Just look for small follicles when you're in the mirror. Just look for new growth.
Oh, I do have some. I can see them in the front. Here, and then I guess you have to be patient. So many people. It is a chemotherapy, and even if it's low dose. And I think that the other bad part about the drug is I love the sun.
Yeah.
And for me, not being able to be in the sun, sun tanning, not in the sun with a 50 sunblock, which, for me, it was outrageous to use a 50 sunblock. But I guess now I do. And I really take care of, I don't want to get, all, I've read all sorts of things that you can get really, your skin can really get very bad in some cases, not in all cases. But just making myself safe, I use the sunblock now.
Yeah, I can see you've got a few motivators here to try and become as healthy as possible and as asymptomatic as possible, so that you need as fewer medications as you need to. You've got the hair loss, and you've also got the desire to get natural and enjoyable sunlight on your body. So yes, well, what you're doing, as your doctor said, keep it up, keep going for it. Sounds like those plantains, that's a great tip with regards to the weight gain on those particular plant foods. Is there anything else that you'd like to cover before we wrap up, and tell us things that have helped you, that you do, that you think maybe someone else would benefit from?
Well, just that, just being positive, and then keep the exercise and the motivation, I think. And even if you if you go downhill at one point, which I think we all experience that, there are ups and downs with the pain, and not to be discouraged, when we get pain, which will happen. And what I try to do is just do some activity, do some positive something, even if I'm in pain. Maybe I pressure myself a lot.
Mm.
And part of the difficult part for me is that I'm a graphic designer, so with the pain, and I also do photography. So for me, it was in Finland, everywhere I take a lot of pictures, but in the summer in Finland, I'd love to take photos of the birds and the ducks because they migrate, and then they have all the nests. And for me, it was a big challenge, from the last winter, that I could barely move my wrist. I couldn't carry the camera. And
Mm.
I said, oh, what am I going to do next summer? And I was able to do it, with my big lens. And so for me, all those little things, if you have something, in my case, it's that. But if you're passionate about something, I think you need to focus on that. And that will, encourage yourself to keep on going, even if you feel a little pain or the test results don't come out like you would have expected. So just keep on going. That's maybe what I think helps the most.
I love it. Things are definitely ups and downs, aren't they? I'm
Yeah.
about to do it. I'm trying to organize a quick podcast with Katie, who's been on a couple of times as one of our guests. And what she and I have both found is that when we have wrist stiffness, that whilst that can be a deterrent to wanting to put pressure onto the wrists and hurt them further, we've both found that by actually challenging the wrists when they hurt, and we're going to clarify that in our discussion, not when they're inflamed with synovitis, but if they're just stiff because they've spent a lot of time not with full range of motion, then these things can be, pushed through and to slowly become better with time. So, completely agree with you. Keep at it. Things
Yeah.
change. My dad has always told me things always change. And what we are today, who we are now, and how we feel, it's going to be different, not just tomorrow, but in 12 months' time. And it does not necessarily have to be in a worse state, even if we have this condition. We can do things by creating daily habits that set ourselves up for a better body and a better outlook in 12 months. It's really possible. So, with that, I'd like to thank you for coming on this episode. We've had a few delays setting this up, and they've been all on me, so I apologize, but we've managed to make it happen. And I thank you for your really intelligent insights, and I'm sure that people will have got a lot out of this. So, Anna, thanks very much. All the best with your photography career. Thanks for being a member of Paddison Program Support and encouraging and helping others. It's been great to watch how you've been going, and we've got a lot more time together in that platform. So thanks very much for sharing where you're up to at the moment.
It's been a pleasure, and thank you, Clint, because you have helped all of us, with the program. And I think everyone has their little success story, even if it's little baby steps. I think we have all benefited from your program. So thank you for sharing it with us.
You're very welcome. Thanks very much.
Okay.